shot that was wide and Keenan cleared it but not out. Bobby Orr behind the net to Sanderson. Orr! Bobby Orr! Orr for the Boston Bruins!
Centennial Garden, home of the Boston Bruins. Sit back and relax as we experience 100 years of Bruins hockey.
Hockey has Willie O'Ree. O'Ree broke hockey's color barrier on January 18, 1958, when he was
Look at the shots to the roar of the crowd. Johnny Newton, the great country club player. And that trophy high in the air.
As a member of the NHL's original 15 and winning 6 Stanley Cup championships, the Bruins carry a proud legacy for the city of Boston and fans inside TD Garden.
Thank you and enjoy your play.
As we begin our approach, please make sure that all seats are in the upright position and trays are put away.
And down he goes. Down they both go. And Holmgren, a trusty customer, took a beating there from Terry O'Reilly. He gave him a shot from behind. Off the head of Middleton. Scores! Middleton wins for Boston.
Here's to 100 years of Bruins hockey.
Out back, left point, Roberts. Shaw, shot. Score! Neely comes front, and Neely gets number 50 as the Bruins lead 6-3.
And Neely's 50th goal is just 44 games. If he is not the star in the National Hockey League this year.
Hello again, everybody. Along with Andy Brickley, I'm Judd Surratt. Thank you for joining us. Brick, tonight the Bruins are going to celebrate their Centennial game, and at the same time...
Garden in Boston, it's the Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. The Centennial game, celebrating 100 years of Bruins hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you see is what Rayborn will wear from now on. Rayborn is going to wear 77. Number 7 is retired. As a journey back, it's all yours.
Curls can only knock it down. Empty net. Here's Brad Marchand. Shoots and scores. And the Boston Bruins have a 4-0 lead.
Rebound, it bounces all around. Reaching the lock up and and by Marchand, he scored! Bruins run a one. Clever, save Weber. Rebound loose on the top of the crease. Marchand score! Bergeron! Bergeron! And Game 7! And the Bruins win the series!
The Boston Bruins win 6-3 over the Montreal Canadiens on a historic night in Boston. McAvoy with his best game of the year and Charlie Coyle with his best game of the year. This game was all about the history, and the Bruins did a wonderful job celebrating the history of the team before the game. As always, I'm going to give you the highs and lows from the Bruins game. So buckle up, Bruins fans. I'm here to give you the latest info on your beloved Boston Bruins. If you've been liking my Bruins content, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you've already done so, thank you, and let's get into it. Bruins had the who's who from the Boston Bruins history in the building before the game. Yesterday, they revealed a brand new bear statue that is now outside TD Garden, which we all know people are going to try and ride at some point. Actually, it's probably already happened. Who are we kidding? This was the Boston Bruins Centennial game celebrating 100 years in existence, and who better to play it against than the Montreal Canadiens? The rivalry isn't what it used to be, but as a Bruins fan, I still hate the Canadiens, and I'm very happy when the Bruins beat them. I can't help but not talk about the jerseys the players wore in the game because I love the Bees logo in it, and I kind of grew up with it. I grew up in the 80s, so the look of the jersey is so iconic to me. But I'm not a fan of the arms having so much yellow. It can be improved on. If the rumors are true, the Bruins jersey next season will look an awful lot like the ones that they wore today next year. Before the game, Sacco spoke to the media, but it was different from most pregame talks.
Not really get involved with the current team, but how important is it for a coach's standpoint to want these guys to be around the current players and maybe something can kind of rub off on them culture-wise? So
yeah, I think it's great that they're around and so many former great players here today.
marking a special occasion. I mean, these are the players that built and established this culture here as far as being a Boston Bruin. So, for us, it's exciting to have them here. It's exciting to see them around, and they just have so much to offer for our guys.
You were daydreaming in Medford about who you were going to be someday. Which players were you pretending to be?
That's a great question. I always loved watching Ray Bourque as a young kid, but I wasn't a defenseman. I was a forward. So I set my sights on different players. I just always liked the way the Bruins played as a kid. They played with passion. They played with emotion. There wasn't one particular player that I singled out growing up in the area. I mean, I had such a large gap of teams that I've watched over the years growing up here, but they always matched the city with their work ethic. They had characters in the room, and it just seemed to blend in great with the city. So, always fun watching them as a kid.
A little part of you still, little Joey Sakic when you're meeting some of these guys.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you get starstruck still. I've obviously got to know some of the guys over the course of the years. Being out here for 10 years, I've established some relationships with some of the former players. But you never forget who they are and what they meant for the organization.
As a fan, you would have come aboard sort of in that lunch pail group, right? Late 70s, early 80s.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you remember what those games were like and what the atmosphere was?
Yeah, I mean, well, everybody remembers from those days. First of all, being in the old Garden was different. You were right on top of the game back then, and the game was different as well back then. But just like I said before, there's certain things that stick out in your mind as a kid. I do remember the game in New York in Madison Square Garden when all that happened. I also remember, I believe it was 87-88 season when the Bruins ended up beating Montreal for the first time in a long time in a playoff series. And one thing that stood out to me was when Reggie he took off his mask and he was given the arm pump, after he left the crease. So there's certain moments that you always remember as a kid in that era, and you always remember some of those players too.
How would you describe that rivalry between the Bruins and the Canadiens?
Back then?
Just overall.
Well, I mean, it was fierce. I mean, that's the way I would describe it back then. And obviously the game has changed, but the rivalry is still there. I mean, there's a lot of emotions that go into these games when you play these guys, and they feel the same way about us as we do about them. So because the part that the game has changed is one thing, but the rivalry still is very intense.
How do you balance a day like today where you want to embrace these festivities, but you also have a game to get ready for?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great day. It's a great day for our fans. It's a great day for our players. It's a great day for us as a staff as well. But we also have to remember that we're here to do a job, and our guys have to stay focused today. Their normal schedule is a bit off as far as the timing of how things work today, but I'm confident in the group that they'll stay focused. They know what they need to do once the ceremony is over to get prepared to play a game that is an important 2 points for us.
Joe, having been here for some time now, how often does it take a new player to come in to understand the Bruin way and the history of the organization?
It takes time for it to settle in, I believe. We have such a good culture here, though, that I think that it's pretty seamless as far as what we expect, and I think expectations that are set on players coming in here. But there's always an adjustment for a player coming to a new team, especially an Original Six franchise. Expectations are very high here as an organization. So, but like I said this before, we have such a good culture and such good leadership that the transition is somewhat seamless for those guys.
But nuts and bolts for lineup changes or anything?
Yeah, there'll be two lineup changes. McLaughlin will be in up front. Johnson will come out, and Osterley on the back end will go in, and Wotherspoon will come out. And Sway's in goal.
Sacco talked about him being a fan of the Boston Bruins, and he even mentioned the 1979 Bruins, who went into the stands at Madison Square Garden. And in fact, the jersey I'm wearing in this video is the one my dad was wearing that night at Madison Square Garden. He said before the game that Swayman would be getting the start because I believe Sacco feels he needs to get Swayman going if he expects to have any success this season. I know many think Korpisalo is capable, but I agree with Sacco here that you need to get Swayman going. But I also think you need Korpisalo still going. But before we get into the goals, which there were many, I think Swayman has played a pretty good game as of late. And in the third period, the Canadiens were on the power play and Swayman stood tall, which was nice to see. He does get off one softie in this game, so I had my doubts he would come through, even though he's played pretty well in his past couple games since his back-to-back stinkers. Coming in tonight's game, in his last 3 games, he has a 1.36 goals against average and a 943 save percentage, even though out of those 3 games, he only won 1 of them. He's been playing very well, which is a great sign for the Bruins, but the group in front of him and Korpisalo needs to be more consistent. It's amazing they scored 6 goals today, but we've seen this before this season, and I need 3 games in a row to think they can go on a run here. So without further ado, let's talk about the game itself, because there was a lot of goals, and it was a fairly exciting hockey game. In the first period, the Bruins scored 3 goals in the matter of minutes. At 11:45 of the first period, McAvoy makes a great move jumping into the play and goes wide on the Canadiens defender and does a wraparound goal to put the Bruins up 1-0. It was McAvoy's 4th of the year, but we hadn't seen this type of move from McAvoy for over a month now. Less than a minute later, Pastrnak tries to make a pass, but Zacha makes a sweet pass from behind the net out front, and Pastrnak pops one top shelf for his 9th of the year. Pastrnak for the remainder of the game, though, will try and pass before shooting, which is a trend over the past couple games. Maybe because he was taking so many shots at the start of the season, he thinks he needs to change up his game. So many times during this game, he had a lane and elects to pass instead, and it's getting to be unlike him. My hope is the coaching staff sees this in the tapes and has a talk with him, because he needs to shoot in the slot instead of passing. Seconds later, Kastelik makes all the effort on this shift, and the puck pops out. Coyle takes the rebound, puts a backhand on the net, and it's 3-0 Boston. We haven't seen this type of offensive push from the Bruins all year, and it was great to see. Second period, the game got a lot tighter, and each team was applying a ton of pressure on the forecheck, but it was Charlie McAvoy who gets his 2nd of the game at 38 seconds into the period. Shorthanded no less, with a sweet individual effort on a breakaway to put the Bruins up 4-0. At 5:42 of the second, though, Arbor Jacki throws a puck on net that bounces off Cole Koepke out front, and it's 4-1 Boston. You hate seeing these type of goals go in, because up until that point, Swayman was playing very well. The third period starts off just like the second, and the Bruins do something they haven't done at home since they played the Canadiens at the start of the season. The Bruins scored a goal in the third period, and it was Charlie Coyle with a sweet deke to put the Bruins up 5-1 at 21 seconds into the third period. Unfortunately, this is where the Bruins start to play sloppy and maybe a little too loose. Now, the Bruins are last on the puck, and Montreal is controlling the play, and the Bruins look to sit back. They look an awful lot like the Bruins from earlier in the season, and you could feel they might let Montreal back into this game. At 2:28 of the third, Emil Heineman of Montreal rips a beauty shot past Swayman, and it's 5-2. Not long after that, though, Cole Koepke takes a shot 5-hole on Swayman that goes in, and it's 5-3. This goal I wanted Swayman to have, though, and I thought it was pretty soft. Up until this point, you couldn't say he let in a bad goal. The good news is, Marchand would take a stupid penalty, put the Canadiens on the power play, but Swayman redeems himself and stands on his head. Swayman showed glimpse of playoff Swayman tonight, but also glimpse of earlier in the season Swayman. I think he's closer to how he played last season now, and we should be happy about that, and hopefully he starts stealing some games for the Bruins. Cole Koepke would score an empty net goal at 17:46 of the third, and the Bruins win 6-3. I'm just happy for a win at this point, and the Bruins are 3rd in the Atlantic, but they played 3 more games than Tampa, who is behind them by only 1 point. The Bruins need to start stringing together some wins soon and go on a run, or I'm afraid they might not even get the wild card spot. The game was about the history of the Bruins today, and from every interview you heard from former players, they mentioned of how proud they were to wear the jersey. So I hope the current players heard that and get inspired to play better hockey. We just haven't seen consistent play from this hockey team this year, and it's left me wanting more. I want to hear from you, though, about your thoughts about the Bruins 6-3 win, and also, tell me your favorite moment during your time as a Bruins fan. That's a wrap on today's video. To stay up to date on all the news surrounding the Boston Bruins, please subscribe and drop me a like. If news breaks surrounding the Boston Bruins, be sure to check out the channel. If you've already subscribed to the channel, thank you, and I'll see you next time.